Well, with all the fan hype going on right now, look, I've made a number of videos about the fact that BET and Tyler Perry have come to an agreement to a new contract. All the various shows that have been renewed, along with the new Route 187, and who knows what else Tyler Perry's been cooking up. And of course, as we've seen over the past year, not just with Viacom, BET, and Paramount, you got to look at all the stuff he's been doing on Netflix and Amazon as well. And yet again, I have to say, who knows what else he's cooking with other platforms out there. People are asking the question, is there hope? Is there hope for some of our old favorites to get revivals at some point? I mean, we live in the day and age of reboots and sequel series, sometimes even prequel series. But the Tyler Perry fans have been clamoring for more when it comes to the haves and the have-nots, If Loving You Is Wrong, Too Close to Home. And I mention them specifically because we've seen House of Pain get revived. And it's still ongoing. We've had 4 seasons on BET, and 2 more have already been filmed. Assisted Living is the spiritual successor to Meet the Browns. And that has, season 6 just filmed as well. So, yeah, like House of Pain will have 6 seasons on BET at some point. And heck, if you go back a little further, House of Pain originally came out with the reboot, The Pain, which was trash, to be honest. But hey, they redid it, and the first season was trash. But then when new writers took a hold of it, House of Pain got better. Now, perfect, not quite as good as the original, but it's still ongoing. Do you think it's possible that within the new contract Tyler Perry has, we might see these shows we've wanted reboots for? Well, actually, let me hold that. I personally don't want reboots, because I've said this time and time again. Some of these shows either need to just continue or to kind of have their endings retconned. To be blunt, out of the big 3, I know some people want Too Close to Home. I never really watched it, so I can't sit up here and say that I want it. No, I can't do that. But I think that fans deserve to see more from these shows. For If Loving You Is Wrong, we don't need like 3 or 7 seasons. All we need is like maybe a solid 10 episodes to truly wrap up the storylines. Because the show, unlike the haves and the have-nots, it just ended. I mean, there were so many unanswered questions, so many things that just felt off. Like Alex was not a saint. You all know I love me some Alex, but she was not a saint. And for her to go down for a murder that she didn't commit was stupid. Then when you look at all the characters who just up and disappeared and never got a conclusion, it was inexcusable. And the worst offense of all, we never found out who Alex's true baby daddy was. All those years. Let's not even talk about the hiatuses that were all over the place. Like, if you think the bruh situation going on right now is crazy, If Loving You Was Wrong was even worse. But we need more. Just give us one solid season. And I mean, look, I personally, this is just me though, I think if BET Plus was looking for a way to increase the subscriber numbers, putting it on BET Plus would be a help. But I know most people are like, bump that, put it on BET so I can watch it. Okay, that's fair. But I'm just saying, from a statistical standpoint, that would be the best way to do it. But, and not to mention, there are a lot of things you can do on BET Plus you can't do on BET. But I don't know, I'm kind of accustomed to their own network, and it does, and well, the way they do things. And we don't need some sort of like gritty and gratuitous versions of these shows that we want more of. But regardless, If Loving You Is Wrong, we just need one season to wrap things up. That's all we need. Then with Too Close to Home, my thing was that show just never got a fair shot. It never got a fair shot. It started to really get good, and then it ended. I think if I remember correctly, because I could be wrong, this was years ago. I think TLC, the ratings weren't great or something, and if also I remember correctly, Too Close to Home was the first scripted series for TLC. So I guess that's one reason why it didn't do super well with ratings, because it was something unlike the network had seen up to that point. Because TLC at this point is like reality show, ain't it? Like, 300-pound, 600-pound life or some crap like that and whatnot. So, and like the Dr. Pimple Popper, and then the foot stuff or whatever, like but what do they call podiatrist or something? The doctors who work on somebody's feet. But yeah, that's what that network is really known for, as opposed to shows like TBS and OWN and whatnot. So yeah, I think that Too Close to Home, that's a show where that could probably go for a few more seasons, but it does feel redundant since we do have the Oval, which is like a political series, at the White House and whatnot. Well, no, actually, even though it takes place in DC and whatnot, Tyler was adamant to talk about how this show isn't about politics. So if you brought back Too Close to Home, maybe that series could focus more on the political side of things, where the Oval does drama. But to be honest, I would rather see the Oval end and then bring back Too Close to Home and let that take its place. I mean, hell, you got the White House set and everything, so why not use it? But that's just me. And on top of that, you have the haves and the have-nots. I was feeling sentimental, and I was actually rewatching a few episodes. What's today? Thursday? No, it's Friday. Yeah, what was it? Wednesday and Thursday, I watched a handful of episodes. And believe it or not, I actually looked at season 8 and season 9 episodes, because those were the seasons where I'm like, oh man, this is crap. And yeah, it was kind of bad. But I will say this much. Looking at a lot of the BET stuff compared to the later halves of the later episodes of the Haves and the Have-Nots, I would have watched the Haves and the Have-Nots more. I mean, it would have been like, hey, at least I'm more familiar with these characters. But at the same time, if you watch the final 2 seasons of the Haves and the Have-Nots, you could see that's when Tyler's quality truly dipped. And then that bled into the Viacom shows. Because I always kept saying the Haves and the Have-Nots got bad during the later seasons. But at that point, it's like, hey, at least there are like 2 to 4, arguably 5 solid seasons of the show. Now, the first 2 are the best, but the first like 5 seasons were really good. 6 is when it started to dip, and then from 7 onwards, that's when it just crashed and burned. But with the shows like Sisters and whatnot in the Oval, a lot of the issues in the later episodes of the Haves and Have-Nots were already apparent in the opening seasons of those shows, and I'm like, if these shows have these issues in the first season, they have no chance moving forward. And for the most part, I was right. So with the Haves and the Have-Nots, you just retcon that piss poor finale. I mean, if I remember correctly, outside of Wyatt dying in the opening minutes of the episode, it was the back half of the episode when everybody died. So it's like, just forget everything. You can kill Wyatt off, though. I mean, he just was a druggie at that point, so I don't know. Well, yeah, if you just retcon everything, like, I don't know, maybe Catherine was having a nightmare in jail or something, or, it was Hannah's nightmare or whatever, it would really do wonders, because the cast are still out there, and Tyler has been working with the John Snyder stuff. I don't know. I mean, to my knowledge, he hasn't been in anything scandalous, but, he's had different things he said online about various people, and that has people going, I don't know. But I do feel like a lot of the cast are still available to work in these projects, so that would be great to see. I mean, as far as I know, like Tinka Sumter, her biggest stuff that she's been doing now are the Sonic, stuff like the movies, and I don't know if she's in the TV series. I don't know. She might be. I forgot. But I do feel like a lot of the cast are still active and willing to, continue the series if given the opportunity. I mean, hell, I know I would. And all I'm saying is your boy would love a cameo or something, since, you know, that series changed my life. But I feel like that show being brought back would be a very heartfelt way of Tyler Perry truly showing support, because I feel like out of all the shows, the haves and the have-nots, that deserves to come back in some way, shape, or form, because I feel like that was the show that saved Tyler Perry, because at the time TBS had dropped him and he really had no other place to go. And it just so happened that, you know, his girl Oprah created her own network and gave Tyler the opportunity to create content. And with the haves and the have-nots blowing up. Yeah, folks, this was before Zatima. I know some people didn't get on the Tyler Perry bandwagon until like Sisters and Zatima, but before Sisters, before Zach and Fatima, before Zatima, it was the haves and the have-nots. And of course, before that, it was House of Pain. And then before that, it was Medea. But the haves and the have-nots was an era in time where Tyler Perry was... Tyler Perry with the haves and the have-nots, at least during the first couple of seasons, you know how Babyface dominated like what the mid to late 80s and then the 90s, where everything he produced, he wrote, went like platinum. And I didn't say gold, like everything Babyface touched in the music industry went platinum, triple platinum and whatnot. Like he wrote so many fire soundtracks for like what? Soul Food, Waiting to Exhale, Boomerang. You know, he either wrote or did stuff on those albums, and that's not even counting all the hits he wrote for like Boys to Men, Bobby Brown, and the list goes on and on and on. That's how Tyler Perry was during that time, because he wasn't working on 50 different projects at once. Like the haves and the have-nots was his bread and butter. And if I remember correctly, if Loving You Was Wrong, no. Love Thy Neighbor was the only other show he had on at the time. Then, If Loving You Was Wrong came, then it was Too Close to Home, then it was The Pains. That's not even including all the other movies he did, and then he did some plays, but at that point the plays they weren't that good. But the haves and the have-nots, I feel, to me, that was his Iron Man moment. You know, like how Robert Downey Jr. getting the role of Tony Stark Iron Man is what saved his career and turned things around for him. That's what the haves and the have-nots did for Tyler Perry. I don't think if that show was as big as it was, Tyler would not be where he is now. That's my personal opinion. This is not coming from any sort of bias. Yes, that is my number one Tyler Perry project of all time. That is the show that changed my life and allowed me to do what I do on this platform for, you know, over half a decade. But when I look at the impact of that series, it would not, I feel like if he didn't do as well as he did on the own network, he wouldn't have gotten that deal with Viacom. And then, of course, with Viacom, that's how everything else just fell into place. So I truly feel the haves and the have-nots, the way it ended, it was like being spat on in the face like Jonah did to Danny and Sisters, because those fans, you know, the fact that we were so dedicated, watching week to week, even when the show became shit, we watched it week to week, tweeting, talking about it online, and then for it to end the way it did. And I'm not saying that it needed to be a happy ending, hell no, but for the show to just end with everybody in one of the most piss poor, asinine ways of ending a show, it felt disgraceful. I mean, people are like, yeah, a movie or something would be great, but I'd rather just have another season or something just to wrap things up. See, if Loving You Was Wrong, I don't think you need to change anything. The way it ended, it felt like a standard season finale as opposed to a series finale. Yeah, that's right. I think I said that even when the episode aired. I said the episode itself wasn't bad, but it felt more like a season finale rather than a series finale. So, yeah, with the haves and the have-nots, you know, change that ending and keep it going. And then, oh gosh, but get rid of so many of those superfluous characters, the ones who didn't need to be there, because at that point, you could just tell Tyler was writing anything because he was doing a favor to OWN by continuing the show to help their ratings, because at that point, he had already moved forward with doing his BET shows. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think the haves and the have-nots needs a retconned ending and continue the show just to wrap things up. And then If Loving You Is Wrong just needs a solid dozen or less episodes to truly just wrap up that series, and we'll be done. Like, reveal Alex's baby daddy, and then, you know, Marcy needs to come clean about murdering Randall, and then you have Joey and Julius and so many other characters that didn't get a proper ending to their stuff. But yeah, that's all I have. I just feel like there could be potential for a lot of these old shows coming back. And Tyler himself, he could just be a consultant, get other writers. The fact that he handed the #1 show, Sisters, to other writers and the ratings are still good, I feel like it would be amazing. And look, I'm not pitching myself. I'm just saying it would be cool to be a consultant on the haves and the have-nots, for example. But to actually see other talented writers revive some of these older shows would be amazing. Because House of Pain didn't really need to come back and last as long as it had. I mean, the ending itself was sad with Miranda walking out, but if you wanted to continue the story, I would have made it a bit better than what it is, because I do feel the new writers are doing a good job, but there are just so many other key characters in the original series that for one reason or another haven't made an appearance, like Floyd's barbershop crew or the fire department and whatnot. I mean, what happened to them? Some of them have been mentioned, like, didn't the big Bart, the big white dude from the fire department, didn't he apparently get removed from the station in disgrace or something? And I think Floyd mentioned the barbershop once or twice, and Pookie and Peanut have come back, but there are just so many other characters people want to see, but they haven't. So yeah, I feel like, Tyler, the opportunity is there. I'm glad you're out there trying new things, doing all these different shows on these different platforms. But for the fans who made you what you are, I feel like it would be amazing for you to bring back some of these old shows during the OWN era to give them proper conclusions. That's my thing, because fans are still talking about it to this day, about their fear of how some of the current shows will end, because I don't want to be fully invested in a show if he's going to end it like If Loving You Is Wrong, where it just ends, or it'll end like the haves and the have-nots, where everybody just dies, and then it means the years of following the shows meant nothing. Or like Too Close to Home, when the show is really getting good, that's when it just ends. So yeah, I would love to see him come back in some way, shape, or form. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you in the next video.